estival, mellifluous, gentacular, snollygoster, gardyloo. I love words, definitions, and learning a new way of saying something. If you are like me, I have a treat for you. Every Wednesday on our blog, we post a new and different word and its definition. Expand your vocabulary, lengthen your lexicon, grow your glossary, and check out our Word Wednesdays at www.bookinterrupted.com/blog.
Parental guidance is recommended because this episode has mature topics and strong language. Here are some moments you can look forward to during this episode of Book Interrupted.
I don't have this human giver syndrome. So it's like, am I not a good enough woman?
Kiss, you can hug, you can do exercise, you can meditate, you can daydream. Burnout is my Moby Dick. Yeah. So.
Do you hear that, Nagoski sisters? Clarissa Piccola Estes. I was ready for it. I don't know that I would have fallen in love if I wasn't at that particular point in time.
But if we're reading about facts or data or whatever, you don't need to dress
Just
it up
the
for
facts,
me.
man.
Yeah, just give it to me with no underpants.
No underpants.
Mind, body, and soul. Information is the goal. Try to learn something new without being distracted. Mind, body, and soul. Information is the goal. Trying to learn something new without being disrupted. Mind, body, and soul. Inspiration is the goal. And we're gonna talk it out on Book Interrupted.
Welcome to Book Interrupted, a book club for busy people to connect and one that celebrates life's interruptions. If you'd like to join along, this book cycle is from September 5th to October 16th. It's Kara's book pick, and we're reading Burnout by Emily and Amelia Nagoski. This groundbreaking book explains why women experience burnout differently than men and provides a simple, science-based plan to help women minimize stress, manage emotions, and live a more joyful life. Let's listen in to this episode's group discussion.
So I actually liked the book. I mean, I liked it. Okay. I found a lot of it stuff I knew already. Nothing was new to me, or very few. I think that for someone who's going through, just like Sarah said, about people that are going through this active stress, I thought it was great that there was actual physical things you could do instead of you should feel this way. Like, here's an exercise you can do, and here's an exercise. I didn't do any of them. I don't really feel like I need to do any of them, but I maybe at some point. And I think there's a lot of people that read self-help and they're like, this is this way that you should feel, or maybe not should, because I know self-help hates the word should. The idea that there's something you can concretely do,
The practical components.
in order to fix or to help or to whatever. I liked that.
Me too.
I want to bring up the idea, this is what I talked about a bunch, is the human giver syndrome whole thing.
Oh, yeah.
I had a huge problem.
I still don't know how I feel about it.
I just felt like they were like, you shouldn't be a human giver all the time. But all women are human givers. And if you're not a human giver, then you're not a real woman. Every time they referred to a human giver, they were trying to refer to women. But I don't feel like I'm a human. I don't have this human giver syndrome. So it's like, am I not a good enough woman because I don't want to give everything to everybody? But then they're like, you shouldn't do that. But then it's also all women are like that. And I got to really.
And by default, if you're not a giver, then you must be a taker. It was very like this or this. Similarly, Lindsay, I was like, well, I have a husband actually who is a giver. And by default, I guess you would therefore classify me as a taker, but I do have moments of giving, so I found it confusing as well.
I wouldn't classify you as a taker.
I wouldn't either.
Oh, I totally think of myself as a taker.
That's
crazy. I
crazy.
just want to suck it all. I was like, what? You want to pay attention to me? I was like, okay.
I don't think of myself as a giver or a taker. I feel like it's balanced.
Well, I didn't like that either, Lindsay.
Yeah, one or the
black
other.
and white.
That whole human giver syndrome. I'm like, because I don't know if that's a real syndrome.
Yeah.
No, it's not real.
It's just not that black
They're just
and white.
pointed.
I mean, maybe for some people.
I think it would be your motivation.
Not for all women are human givers. All men are human beings or whatever.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, right.
Well, are we kind of back to the one of the beginning points that Meredith you raised, and it's actually spot on. I think that this book is talking specifically to their ideal reader is, I think, female, a woman, and it's a particular type who most likely would identify with being like, yeah, I do suffer from human giver syndrome. You know, and we're just not, I don't know, we're women filled with lots of complexities and nuances, you know. I think that's one connection point between all 6 of us is that we very rarely fall into like we are just this or just that.
Well, I think that's true of all women. And that's maybe what
Me
the
too.
underlying problem with this book is that they try to find this very specific woman. And maybe all of us kind of was like, oh, like that's kind of simplified. I wonder if many women who read this are also like, I'm more than what this is saying. Like, yeah, some of this applies and some of it doesn't, but there's so much more. It's not just patriarchy, you know?
Yeah.
Well, would anyone recommend this book to anyone?
I like the practical components. Yeah. And then the research that just supports that it's really important to work on those relationships with others.
Yeah, I'd recommend it to certain people or as a, you know, an easy, I didn't find it a difficult read. I know some of you did, but I flew through it. I thought it was, and, you know, I think a lot of women, this would be useful to them. So I'd recommend it to some, what do we call it? Now we still don't remember what we call it with
Reservations.
with reservations, with whatever.
Wow.
For certain people, I recommend it.
What about you, Sarah? Would you recommend it?
I'm the same as Lindsay. I would recommend it for anyone personally. I'm just not in that place, but there was lots of things in it that I thought were really beneficial. And I like Lindsay said, all the exercises. I also like that they gave more than one thing you could do. You know, in the exercises, it wasn't like do this one thing, meditate for an hour, and then you have such a hard time meditating that you never do it. So you never have the thing that's supposed to help you and you're stressed out. It's like you can kiss, you can hug, you can do exercise, you can meditate, you could daydream. They give those like endless things that you could do to help yourself. So I would recommend it to anyone I feel is in a situation where I could tell they're burnt out and maybe they're having health problems due to it and they don't know how to get out, and they feel like I used to feel like being on some sort of crazy train I can't get off. So I would recommend to anyone that was feeling that way. I think it's a great book for that because it gave so many different things. And also, if you're feeling the patriarchy, then it kind of makes you feel better. Or if you're feeling like I can't go to work and always be smiling and happy, and I don't have time to exercise or do yoga, and I'm always the one cooking and cleaning, like if you're feeling like some of the people in the book, then reading it could make you feel like you're not alone, you know? So yeah, I would recommend to certain people, but not to everyone.
Yeah.
Do you think that Leah doesn't recommend it? based on
For sure.
She's like, goodbye.
Goodbye.
She's out of here.
Because you left. See ya.
Leah has spoken.
Oh, she's back.
Oh, we can't hear you, Leah.
You're muted.
So sorry, I'm gonna sign out early because I can hear someone in our new house.
Oh,
Oh.
check it out.
Okay,
luck.
we'll
I will
see
see you in the
you
next one.
in a bit.
And I recommend the book.
Oh, she recommends it.
Okay, she recommends it. Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
Don't be sorry. Like Lindsay, I don't know if I learned anything new in the book. I like the, kiss somebody for a long time. That's nice. I wouldn't recommend the book. It was really tough read for me and I didn't finish it. It was just every time I picked it up, it felt like it was adding to my being like, oh, I could read this book. And
Just adding
it
to
was
your
like the
burnout.
opposite. It was burning me out. No.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't, and I know it has some good tips in there and stuff. I wouldn't recommend this book. If there was an equivalent that was written differently, maybe. It was a really tough read for me, which is not typical of, I read lots of, it was like reading Moby Dick. I've never finished Moby Dick, but when I pick it up, I'm like, I'm going to do this. And then I'm just like, oh, I can't read about more whales. I haven't even met Moby Dick yet, and I have to put this book down again. The whale hasn't even surfaced. So I kind of felt like that about Burnout. Burnout is my Moby Dick. Yeah. So
Do you hear that, Nagoski sisters?
They may be flattered. Oh, that's a classic.
Totally right.
they're only flattered because they've never tried to read it. I'm just joking. But like seriously, pick it up one day and just be like, oh my God, Anyway,
Yeah.
that's it.
There you
Is it
go.
me? Am I the last one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't feel like I can recommend it because I didn't read it. And if someone was presenting in a way that I felt this book might help them, I might tell them about it, but I would also tell them I didn't read it, which I guess wouldn't be a really glowing
No.
recommendation. You might want to read this. I stopped, but maybe you'll get through it. Maybe it'll be helpful to you.
Maybe you're gonna make it through.
I've got a copy if you want. But you clearly need it.
Or read Moby Dick.
Yeah, I feel like how Meredith feels, which makes me feel better because I didn't know if I was going to be the only one, but I had a very similar experience to Meredith with it. So I don't know if I've been really conclusive in my recommendation or not, but that's the end of it.
Do you guys always
know.
think that when you either really loved the book or had a hard time with it, that everyone's going to feel the same? And then it's never that?
I think opposite.
Yeah?
Well, no, actually, if I love it, I think everyone will love it and then surprise if people don't like it. But when I don't like it, I think everyone's going to love it. And I'm going to be somehow insulting or weird or didn't get something out of the book that everybody else got or something.
Yeah, I worry about the being insulting, right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't want somebody, oh, you didn't read my book because you don't like me? Or
Yeah.
And it's like, that has nothing to do with that at all. I like
Yeah.
everybody who is here.
I don't like the authors. No, just kidding.
I feel bad when I don't like a book for our club, but also generally if I don't like a book, I always feel bad about it somehow.
Somebody worked hard on this book and
Yeah.
and I'm just like,
feel
I don't
bad.
like
I
it.
do feel bad about that part for sure. I also just,
Yeah.
I think, come to view books. Sometimes I think that they're a lot like partners. Have you ever dated someone and you're like, I think it's about timing. So oftentimes in life, the connection isn't just about the person or the book, but also who are you at this point in time?
100%.
I'm like, oh, this has spoken to me. And it makes a lot of sense. Why? Because of the themes that are going on in my life. But you could read it another time and be like, that book sucks. Like I was ready for Clarissa Pinkola Estes Women. Like I was ready for it. I don't know that I would have fallen in love if I wasn't at that particular point in time.
I couldn't agree more with you. I totally think that that's a huge variable in how well a book lands with an individual for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I'm reminded of Untamed. This is when you guys are talking about this too. Him was like, so just, this is the book. And a lot of us, definitely me, obviously, really didn't like it. And so I think you were shocked. What do you mean? Like,
Yeah.
what do you mean you don't like it? What?
Hey, let's talk about some more.
Yeah, which was interesting to see the differences. I always like that too. I think now that we've done this for a while, I can kind of guess what everybody's going to think about a book.
Ooh, let's add that as a feature. Like we make predictions.
Lindsay guesses for everyone.
Everybody guesses for everyone. Like I think you finished, you like it, you don't.
Who did you think was going to love it, Lindsay? Did you have an idea? Were you right this
For
time?
this book?
Yeah.
Well, I figured Kara liked it because she picked it. I thought that Sarah might appreciate it, but I think that's kind of the similar because I felt like she went through that. I'm surprised that Mare didn't like it because I know you've been going through actual burnout.
Yeah.
I totally get burnt out
Recently.
all the time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like severe burnout. So I felt like you might be able to find something in it. So that surprises me.
Severe burnout.
Yeah.
I wasn't, Kim's always a wild card. I don't know.
Ooh, I like that.
I know, me too. I can never predict. I thought Kim would love this book.
Yeah.
I just thought you would like this book for some reason.
Yeah.
But you're right. I should have realized with the stories, you don't like spoon feeding fictional stories within
Yeah.
a nonfiction book.
Yeah, totally.
I don't like that either. I'm just like, ugh.
Yeah. I don't think they're fictional though.
I think they're real. They just chose fake names.
They're composites of several people. So they're based on real people.
That's what they said, yeah. But the numerous people.
They're using it as a tool. Yeah.
Oh.
But I don't like the storytelling either.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just tell me the facts and I got the fact and I can move on. I don't need you to demonstrate how it plays out.
Yeah. In a book like this.
I like the stories.
Yeah. I like
Oh, they're cute.
I didn't mind the stories either.
That's funny because I'll enjoy fiction when it's fiction. But if we're reading about facts or data or whatever, you don't need to dress
Just
it up
the
for me.
facts, man.
Yeah. Just give it to me with no underpants.
No wonder.
Just go read the
Give me the
research.
data. Yeah.
No underpants.
I don't think we have a reference so the listeners will understand that.
Just a sports bra, please.
Give it to me raw.
There you go, folks.
The naked truth.
Heard it
There we
here.
go.
Thank
The
you.
butt ass naked truth.
That's right.
Mhm.
Don't dress it up with underpants. Is that better?
Don't dress it up. We don't need to dress up
That
this dress
clear?
with underpants.
We don't need to dress up this vagina with underpants. Just give me.
Just give me a dress with no undies.
It's nice wearing a dress without underwear though, because it's so breezy.
I love
Like
it.
in the
Yeah.
summer. Yeah.
And risque.
Yeah.
Like it
makes me
feels
feel
nice
sexy.
as well as it's
Yeah, you feel sexy. Like, ooh, nobody knows.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I never wear underwear at home. Like when I'm at home on a dress, oh, never.
No,
Not a bra, not underwear, just the dress.
forget it. No bra, no underwear. You're at home in your happy place.
Oh, no, I always do. The only
Yeah.
time I don't wear underwear is jammies. Like I'll wear a nightie without underwear, but no, I've never gone out of the house without underwear. Ever. I don't think ever.
Really? Oh.
Never. No,
Yes.
never.
Give it time,
Whatever.
Sarah. Give it
No.
time.
I don't think she's gonna change
Yeah.
on
I don't
this
think
one.
she
It
will.
may or may
either.
not be a
No.
phase.
Yeah.
It would be a
not a
huge
phase.
accident. If she left the house without
It would be a
underwear, there's
huge
something wrong.
accident.
I know.
There's
She
something
waits till
wrong.
she's
She was in a
83
big rush.
to
She's
make a
on the
big
way to the
change.
hospital, probably. Something has gone terribly wrong. The
Yes.
house is on fire and she's still wearing her pajamas. There you go.
There we
That
go.
would be
That's
it.
the scenario.
That's it. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And even then, she would have tried to make at least one or two attempts on her way out of the burning house to grab underwear.
It's funny actually when you talk about that. So we get bread every day, fresh every day here, and you pay the baker for the month. So you just go get your bread and come back. And I never go.
What does this have to do with underwear?
This is what, because I don't wear underwear in my jammies, okay? But I will not leave the house in my jammies either, ever.
Maybe because you don't have underpants on.
So the kids were like, why don't you get it? I'm like, I do not go outside with my jammies on because I don't have underwear, I bet.
You're too exposed.
It's like unacceptable to be outside with my jammies.
Wow. You got standards.
Interesting. I just like the visual of you talking about going to the baker. And I was like, I like this start of the story. And I wanted to imagine how underwear fit into the bakery story.
Ooh, I can think of disgusting ways.
Okay, come on.
Right? I was like, where is this going?
No, I send my kids to go get the bread.
Yeah.
With or without underwear?
Oh my goodness gracious.
You don't have to answer that. We don't want to embarrass the children on air.
This interruption is brought to you by Unpublished. Do you want to know more about the members in Book Interrupted? Go behind the scenes? Visit our website at www.bookinterrupted.com.
Book interrupted.
Hey, this is Leah. Oh, this audio interruption is about how I can't ever seem to get it together on a Sunday. We usually do our recordings on a Sunday, and I always plan to be here like 2 hours in advance, set up, so I can go nice and slow, make some tea before we start. And without fail, it's always crazy, mad scramble, dash, don't have it together, probably wearing my pajamas. Like, leave it. It's just the nature of Sunday. Why? I even work most Sundays. It's like a normal work day for me, but I can never get it together on a Sunday. So that's my boring interruption.
Book interrupted.
It's book report time. We're going to find out from each member their final thoughts. And do they recommend the book? Let's listen.
Hello, Kara here again. I finished reading Burnout by Emily Nagoski and Amelia Nagoski, and I would love to share a book report with you. I had heard Amelia and Emily on Brene Brown's podcast, and I really liked what they were sharing, which is, of course, what spurred me selecting this book and offering it as my pick to Book Interrupted, but also just because I wanted to continue the conversation. So that's why I chose my book first and read it so very long ago, because I felt like that was just my introductory to a very interesting conversation that I heard on the podcast. And I just wanted a little bit more from the authors. I wanted to better understand like kind of what drove them to write this book. Why did they choose to take such a feminist lens? What prompted them to look at what I'm going to call unconventional ways of processing and cycling through stress. Although in reality, I think that they are quite normal suggestions that the authors offer, which is backed by substantial research. I say uncommon though, because my opinion of late is, and again, I'm just speaking in general terms here. So from what I've observed, and I've been working in a mental health clinic for a good few years now, is oftentimes we try to, when we are struggling, either with noticing feelings of depression or anxiety, in particular noticing burnout and stress within ourselves. And sometimes I've noticed we try to, what is the most complicated answer that is the solution to saving me or fixing me? Or how fancy can I get with my self-care regimen, you know? When what I appreciated about the women is I feel like they went back to fundamentals 101, that it's not fancy, it's foundational. And how can we look at ourselves more like members of the animal kingdom, more like humans that have come from nature? And how can we get back to basics? Looking at not only just our psychology, but our physiology and biologically what is occurring. So that's why I kind of use the term unconventional, because for me, what Amelia and Emily are sharing are like a breath of fresh air. But in some ways, the information that they're sharing, it's almost like a renaissance. It's kind of like tactics or tools, things that I believe that humans have had access to for thousands of years. But along the line, you know, we might have lost track of what is the simplest solution here. So I like, and this is totally because I am a moving person. I am a kinesthetic learner. I like that they're just like, how about using your body and your breath work? How about that? And I gotta tell you, using some of the suggestions from the authors in conjunction with some of the suggestions that come from, have you heard of the group, the Conscious Leadership Group? I believe that they are out of Chicago in the States, but they've also published a book called The 15 Commitments of Conscious Leadership. I'd say between those two books, the Burnout and the 15 Commitments, that's my toolkit nowadays. That is like personally my toolkit, all of the suggestions, as well as what I help and offer to some of my clients who are seeking a bit of support with mental health or stress or burnout. I love that the sisters make a strong case for connections and relationships, and they equate the importance of connections and relationships to being just as important as getting fresh water, regular sleep, that actually we can't be optimal beings unless we have that community support and the connections. And I also just really like, both from the Burnout book and the 15 Commitments, just really paying attention to, can you name the emotion that has presented itself? And you don't have to get uber specific. You can just get into the ballpark, like, oh, I think I'm in the realm of happiness. I think I'm in the realm of sadness. I think I'm in the realm of anger. If you can name it, if your first step can be, it's okay. We don't need to understand it. We don't need to overanalyze it. That can certainly come. We don't need to resist those, but that we don't need to lead with trying to get more analytical and cerebral with understanding the emotional response. I like that, you know, the authors kind of look at emotion as energy, or just think of energy as emotion, conversely, emotion, energy in motion. And how can we use sounds? It doesn't necessarily have to be linguistic. It doesn't have to be an actual English language or French or German or anything like that. It could just be more primal. Like happiness sounds like this and anger sounds like this. And to pair kind of like an audible utterance with a physical movement that matches the emotion, and to help that to try to dissipate and release the 90-minute emotional cycle. Because otherwise you're just repressing and recycling it. So both books touch upon that, and I am so grateful for the work that the Nagoski sisters put out there. I highly recommend this book to everyone. It's just so helpful, extremely helpful. And that's about all I'm going to say about that. 2 thumbs up. I'd highly recommend reading it, and you're going to walk away with a bunch of new insights and tools. And yeah, I think it was wonderful. Alrighty, take care.
All right, well, I'm done. Burnout. And yeah, I didn't hate the book. I think a lot of the stuff is stuff I already knew. When I was especially a teenager, I did take on a lot, did everything for everybody else. I burnt out quite a bit, and I would emotionally, go through a lot of things into my 20s. And so I learned at a fairly young age how I could take care of myself and how I could mentally be okay to be able to give when I could give. And so a lot of the stuff in the book, like knowing I need a certain amount of sleep, keeping a support system around me, gratitude, all of these things are things that I do on a regular basis because I know that I'll be no use to anyone if I don't do certain things in order to keep my mental health and my physical health well. And so for me, a lot of it was things I already knew. I know I talked about it in my second personal journal, the human giver syndrome. And I think the thing that's bugging me about it is that they're saying that all women have this, first of all, kind of. To me, this is what I got, that all women have this, and this is something we have to struggle against maybe, or it's okay. Like, I'm not quite sure what their point was, but it kind of made it seem like if you didn't have this human giver syndrome, and if you didn't sacrifice your whole life for other people, and that you didn't burn out yourself all the time because you were giving, that you weren't, I don't know, like good enough woman. Just felt like almost like they were shaming me for not having this human giver syndrome, because I know my boundaries and I know how much I can give, and I know that I can't give everything to everybody. I also don't have kids, so I think that may be a huge well, it is a huge difference, because I can be selfish and I can say, look, I need my 8 hours sleep. Sorry, I can't do this for you. Almost making me feel guilty about setting boundaries and about getting enough sleep and about doing all the things that they tell me to do in the book, which is weird because I never generally feel guilty about it. But then I feel guilty about not feeling guilty. Does that make any sense? They do say that women will shame you. Other women who are giving too much then shame you for not giving too much, even though they shouldn't be giving too much. Like, it's a whole circle thing. Anyways, so that's kind of the one thing about the book that really kind of, I don't know, just made me feel weird because I'm not the stereotype of what they're talking about as a woman. So I didn't hate the book. I would definitely recommend it for people that are going through burnout and don't have the techniques in their repertoire to be able to handle that or deal with it. I think the exercises look great. I didn't do any of them, but maybe I should. Maybe I will at some point. I know I work a ton, and there are moments when I feel like I'm going to burn out at work, but then I take time away from work. So I don't know. Anyways, I think maybe I'll go back and read and actually do the exercises, and we'll see. Anyways, thanks for the book choice. I thought it was interesting, and I'm glad I read it. And, I think there are things there that will stick with me. And I know that if I'm going through a period of time when I forget all of these things, this is a good resource to come back and to look at and to maybe do the exercises and get me back on track. All right. Thanks for listening. Talk to you later. Bye.
It's time for the book report of Burnout, The Secret to Unlocking the Stress Cycle. Last time I was here, I stated that I would be finishing the book, and now I'm here to admit that I didn't. I really tried to, and I think that the book has some very valid points. And there's things in there that I really agree with, but I really didn't like it. There's a lot of things that rubbed me the wrong way, and I did mention that in my last personal journal where they referred to this guy as a cutie patootie. That kind of turned me off, but there was more. And I think what I finally did give up on the book was this. I'm just gonna have to read it to you here. Sometimes connection is emotional support. Sometimes it's information and education, like the medical professionals helping her relearn how to live in a body. And sometimes it's cooking, carpools, dishes, dusting, putting things back where they belong. Public health theory calls it instrumental support. Okay, I'm going to stop right there because I agree with that. That's great, right? I was like, oh yeah, that's good. And then it says, to Julie, it felt like, quote, having a wife. And I have a very supportive, I hate saying a supportive partner. I have a partner who shares the workload at home, and we both do kind of everything except for a couple things that maybe I just do that or he just does that, but we don't have blue and pink jobs. That's not how we work. And I am not afraid to ask him for help, and he's not afraid to ask me for help, I hope. I hope. And so maybe the audience of this book is, a woman who feels trapped in her gender roles and that she has to take on all the responsibilities and do all the carpooling and doing the dishes and putting things where they're supposed to be. But then I also wonder, so maybe they're trying to relate to this person by saying, to Julie, it felt like having a wife. But I think that kind of damages their message where they're trying to say, you don't have to burn out trying to live up to the expectations of society, but then also using the language that kind of reinforces these are the expectations of society. It's kind of, it rubbed me the wrong way. So, maybe I'm just not that person that wants to hear that or empathizes with it or feels like that's what being a wife is to me. Anyway, do I recommend the book? I don't recommend the book. Again, I agreed with some of the things it said in there. For example, if you want to change how you view body image and what you think is beautiful and acceptable, then expose yourself to lots of different bodies and really look at them and be like, that's beautiful. And, broaden your horizons or try to work against the bias. I'm totally for that. If there's some expectation you're feeling from society or feeling bad about yourself, then maybe work hard at changing those biases to feel better. Anyway, I'm sorry, Kara. I love you, but I don't love this book. So that's okay. Because, I don't think half the group read my book. So that's just how it goes.
This is my final personal journal for the book Burnout. I did not finish it, and I did not finish it on purpose. So I don't know how qualified I am to really give a book report when I didn't read the book. I will say that one good thing came out of it, which was learning that you can complete a stress cycle physiologically by kissing someone for 6 seconds. So I thought that was awesome, and I've been doing it with my husband ever since I learned it. More for him than me. Anyway, so I don't feel qualified to recommend the book or not, so I can't really say. As you heard at the end of our group discussion, I kind of said the same thing. I don't really have anything against it. I just didn't read it, so I don't feel like I'm in the know enough to tell someone they should read it. I guess I could tell them I didn't really like it and I stopped reading it, which might be an anti-recommendation. But again, like at the end of the group, I'm going to be quite ambivalent about my opinion. That's really all I have to say about it because, as I've said repeatedly during this personal journal, I didn't read it.
Hello. This is my book report for Burnout by Emily and Amelia Nagoski. Sorry if I'm saying it wrong. I really enjoyed this book. It is perfectly timed for me in what I need. And right now I am feeling particularly burnt out. I've been feeling particularly burnt out. And I have been listening to this book on Audible for the last month or so on really long walks, which has been really soothing. And it's just the right time. I started doing the walks right when I started reading the book, and kind of doing both at the same time has helped me to process my stress, to complete my stress cycle maybe a little bit. It's been really, really helpful. I love anything that adds a bit of a scientific lens to why and the how of how I'm feeling. And I love all the tips and tricks they offer. I would recommend this book to any female who feels run down, overdone, too stressed. And I certainly have just been feeling that way lately. This is the little artwork I did for the book. I tucked it into the book. So that might give you an idea or indication of how I've been feeling. It's kind of unraveling. That's kind of where I'm at. It's like kind of undoing. And now I want to redo. So hopefully I'm on the down side of the slope of the mountain, the easier part. Because I just feel like I'm really in a transformative place and I want to make some changes because I've been feeling so much burnout. And this book just was the right time, right place, right information. So thank you, Kara, for recommending the book. I would recommend it to others. Okay, see you later. Bye.
All right, final book report for Burnout: The Secret to Unlocking the Stress Cycle. So I would recommend this book for me 5 years ago, maybe. Yeah, so I would love this book 5 years ago because I was feeling really burnt out, and a lot of the examples they give in this book I was feeling and dealing with. I think there was a lot of very interesting things I didn't know about, like how sleep contributes to diabetes. I thought that was very interesting. I'd never heard that before, and I'm a bit of a health nut. I also really liked the section on the bikini industry. They brought a lot of research about how people that are overweight or considered obese aren't necessarily that unhealthy. So I thought that was really interesting too, because that is a bias. And I recognize that bias in me. I also like that they say something in it, I'll quote. They said, "We're not saying that beautiful is what your body should be. We're saying beautiful is what your body already is." Like that, they're just reinforcing things I already think and believe. I also like the Mad Woman part, but once again, I've kind of already dealt with that in my life. I referred to it from Eckhart Tolle's Pain Body. I named my pain body Sally, blah, blah, blah. But basically, that's my Mad Woman. However, something I never considered was they say to become friends with your Mad Woman. And I don't. I'm the opposite. I'm like all of those personalities I have that I consider negative, like my pain body or my ego or my victim, whatever it is that pops up. I'm the opposite. I'm like brutally cruel to them. Get the hell out of here. That kind of thing. And I've mentioned this on other episodes. So I never considered becoming friends with my Mad Woman. So I'll consider that next time one of them shows their tricky little scenarios in my life. And in my mind, I will, instead of immediately recognizing them and tell them to get lost, I might see what it feels like to have sympathy for them. So there you go. So I would recommend this to anyone who's, I can clearly see feeling this. I got some things out of it, but not really. I'm not in a stage in my life right now that I'm feeling like this. But I feel like if you have someone in your life that you know is burning out and maybe having health problems and taking on too much and perfectionism and blah, 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 because I struggle with all those things, then I would definitely recommend this book. One of the things actually I want to criticize the book about, one of the things they said during active rest was you could be doing some different task and that would be considered rest. So they're talking about one of the authors, she was still working in music and she was writing this book, but then also writing a fictional novel. So that was her active rest. I feel like in at least Canadian culture or North American culture, I think we need to learn to actually actively rest. That's being productive. And I think people that are type A personalities, like they were saying in this book, need to actually learn how to, live, enjoy life, actually rest, and not always be looking to do something productive, because I have that issue as well. And I think it's beneficial to do active rest that doesn't consist of doing another productive project on the side, but maybe baby steps. Okay, well, that's my book report. I recommend it for some, but I personally didn't need this book at this time in my life.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Book Interrupted. If you'd like to see the video highlights from this episode, please go to our YouTube channel. Be sure to subscribe, and you'll be notified when there's new content. Want to be part of the conversation? Have your voice heard on our fan episode next week. Or recommend a book, and you could be joining us for a 6-week book cycle. Find out more by going to www.bookinterrupted.com/fans.
Are you interested in joining the conversation and having your comment played on the podcast? Simply find a quiet place and record a voice memo. Then send it to connect@bookinterrupted.com. Or you could do it the old-fashioned way and leave us a voicemail at 416-900-8888. 8603. We look forward to hearing from you soon.
Book interrupted.
Never forget, every child matters.